There's an old saying that goes, be careful with whom you call your friend, because tomorrow they might be the one who will be ordered to take a shot on you. Just be careful on that person who sits beside you. We've seen many people throughout history come forward and they were terminated. They were exterminated by people whom they thought were very close to them, only to be disappointed by the results. We've had characters from the Bible. We had, Samson. Samson was by a woman, He was betrayed by a woman. Also, we've had so many of these African leaders, such as Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba. His bodyguard, Mobutu Sese Seko, was someone who was admiring his position all along, until when he became the president, he decided to hunt down Patrice Lumumba. And I don't know if you've watched that video. It's very sad to watch how he was running. He was being slapped by people who once saluted him. Those people who saluted him once are now slapping him. There's no loyalty with soldiers sometimes. They serve that person who is in power. And it's always good to have those people, just have 5 lions. Guys, have 5 lions. Don't have 500 sheep.
I think my name has been mentioned several times. I'm Robert Hijiro. I was born in Uganda because my parents lived there after being forced out of Rwanda in 1959. So I share the same background with the president because he was also raised in Uganda as a refugee. I was part of the force that seized control of Kigali in 1994, which actually led to the falling of the former Hutu regime and brought an end to the genocide in Rwanda. I did work for 2 decades with the Rwandan military and served in different capacities. I had 2 tours as a peacekeeper, one with African Union, the initial launch of Darfur peacekeeping, and another one with the United Nations African Union hybrid mission, which is still ongoing. On returning home, that was 2010, I only found that I had been decommissioned and out of job. What that means in Rwanda is that no single investor or businessman is going to work with you, because it means you are disfavored from the system. So, as my colleague just mentioned, it's a controlled business environment. So I went to Uganda to pursue business opportunities. But not so long, I was summoned back to Rwanda. And I was questioned about my links with the former Army Chief of Staff, General Kayumba Nyamwasa, and former National Intelligence and Security Chief, Colonel Patrick Karegeya. These 2 officers had, of course, fallen out with President Kagame and had fled to South Africa. This happened to me, but even to other many officers. The most recent examples are General Tom Byabagamba, who actually spent the whole of his struggle since 1990 to recently in 2010, I think 12, looking after Kagame, protecting him. He was a deputy sector commander in Southern Sudan as a peacekeeper. When he got home, he was taken straight to prison. Same happened to General Frank Rusagara, military attaché in the United Kingdom. After his services, straight to prison. David Kabuye served for a long time, straight to prison. And many, many, many others. The military we are talking about today is no longer there. He has young boys doing the peacekeeping, but all the top cadres that actually helped him get into power, they are either in cells, dead, running, all over the world. Others are idle in the country, which is a very dangerous aspect when it comes to national security. Well, after my interrogation, I was suspicious. I knew that something is wrong, and they want to use me for a dirty job as usual. Having served 20 years, I knew exactly why they summoned me, and I was met by the military leadership.
You don't need in fact, number is a problem. Right now, if you sit back and you start counting your friends, those who will really help you, you'll be surprised. Have some trouble, go through your contacts, see whom you can call right now and send you some cash for your hospital, or maybe to support your baby, or whatever problem you may have. You'll find a handful. But once you have riches, so many people will come to you. So many people will come that you teach them your ways of getting money. You teach them your ways of doing things. But once they learn those ways, I'm telling you, the 100% certainty, they'll show you their true colors. But a good thing is that these people always show red flags way before. It's only that we normally choose to ignore. I'm saying all this because it is relatable with a conflict that is happening in Rwanda. The president of Rwanda is known to be deleting people who go against him. This includes journalists. This includes opposition leaders. We've seen so many people who go against Paul Kagame perish or disappear, or they just go away. There's a name for that. Is it called expatriate? There's a name we call people who leave and go away because of some conditions. So Paul Kagame is the reason for that. And now in this video, I found it very interesting where, a bodyguard, or rather somebody that a smart guy. There's this term, the mercenaries. That is the word. A mercenary that was working for Paul Kagame, and he discovered that Paul Kagame is not the angel he seemed to be, came forward and confessed very hard truths about his master, his then master, wrongdoings, He came and confessed that my master did this, my master did that. And it is interesting that what he's going to say. Now, without further ado, I want us to listen what he has to say. And then, of course, by the end of the video, I shall share with you my thoughts, where we shall also have a deep critical analysis. Let's dive in.
It was not long, my former trainees warned me that if I don't leave the country, I would be in danger. So I fled to Senegal, thinking if I go as far as possible, they will forget all about me. But a few months, 2 or 3, somebody is sent by the Director of Military Intelligence, Dan Munyuza, to tell me that they have a job for me. He calls me directly and tells me that they have sat down and decided to give me a job. And the job was to go to South Africa and eliminate former Chief of Staff, General Kagame Nyamwasa, and former National Security and Intelligence Chief, Colonel Patrick Karegeya. And there's a question you asked, I should state that, on record that, is Kagame involved? Up to where? When Munyuza, Director of Military Intelligence, is giving me a mission, he's on recording the president. Now, I was desperate and I needed time to think about it, because I know that whether you do the job or not, you're going to die anyway. So I called Colonel Patrick, gave him the story, and we agreed that I go to South Africa and play by Dan's motions. I went to South Africa. We discussed between me and General Nyamwasa and Colonel Patrick how to go about it. So we agreed that I should gather as much evidence as possible by recording each and every conversation of instructions of this assassination plan, which could be used like we're using it today. So I recorded these conversations for over 7 months. And eventually, I told Munyuza, of course, that I could do the job. And he said he would offer up to $1 million USA for the job. We went on and on, modalities, the weapons to be used, what he wants me to do, how to do it, etc., etc. And then eventually couldn't send in the money because we were waiting for the money to come in, which would add on this evidence. But they started, the boss was saying, he tells me, the boss is saying we should wait. Why can't you eliminate them first before you are paid? And I knew something is wrong, and then I had to flee South Africa. I went to Uganda, crossed to Nairobi, and eventually I found myself in Belgium, where I live today as a dissident, like others. In Rwanda, like others, I'm a wanted man. Abroad, I'm on the hit list. Like him, like anybody else. Well, like he said, or the previous speakers, on the New Year's Eve of 2014, Kagame achieved his wish, and that's when Colonel Patrick Karegeya was found strangled in a Johannesburg hotel. I should add here that some of these individuals involved are known. We know them. South Africa is still conducting the investigations. We are waiting, but we know some of these individuals. General Kayumba Nyamwasa has survived, I think, 3 assassination attempts in South Africa. The first one, he was actually shot, but he didn't die. The others, they would find him in a different location, and it has been 3 or 4 times. He's still living. We don't know for how long. For me, when this happened, when Patrick died, I decided to find a leading newspaper, a Canadian newspaper, the Globe and Mail, and shared my story. I gave them access to the tapes. These tapes were independently verified or translated. This paper went as far as interviewing former military officers, and they confirmed indeed the voice belongs to Munyuza. And not only that, there is technology, as you are telling the members of Department of State. We can always verify this voice. If the government says, no, this is not Dan Munyuza, then they should give us the official voice of Munyuza, and we compare with one I have. If it's not true, then, well, it's not. I cannot go again over the list of Rwandans who were assassinated abroad and in the country. You have talked about it. He has talked about it. We have submitted a copy of that. It's a long one, but the reality is tragic. I would like to end with a message to my fellow Rwandans. Hutus and Tutsis have much to attain for with regard to one another. Like me, many Tutsis support the establishment of truly independent court that would, follow these crimes committed by President Paul Kagame and his allies. If you allow me, I'll read this quote from Mandela, which he gave out in 1994. I quote, "Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long, must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud. The time for the healing of the wounds has come. The moment to bridge the chasms that divide us has come. The time to build is upon us." I sincerely thank the subcommittee for its time and interest, and respectfully ask for help, and the help of the entire U.S. Congress, to urge Rwandans to put aside their divisions, regional, political, and ethnic, and work peacefully together to end this repressive regime.
Now, if you are someone who listens, you should have listened by now. Don't spill all your beans, or rather, don't put all your eggs in one bucket. Don't put all your eggs in one bucket, because when the time comes when they're destined to fall, you don't lose all your eggs. Now, you don't put them all in one bucket. With Paul Kagame, he trusted so many of his officials. In fact, these officials were the ones he would call for them to go and do his dirty works, the works he didn't want to do so as to make his hands clean. Now, one of his hands has now come and confessed against him. This story looks very much familiar, It's no different. I always tell you that there's no news in this world. There's nothing new. Everything we have is recycled history, but with different characters. We can predict behaviors. We can predict outcomes based on the knowledge we have about history. Now, Paul Kagame has faced so many accusations. He has faced accusation of drowning. How do we call bringing down a plane that was carrying the former president of Rwanda before he came into power, President Habyarimana. President Habyarimana was killed in a plane accident in which people say that Paul Kagame is the one who is responsible for doing all this, I am thinking that the people who are judging this gentleman also are not good people. You know why? In a certain interview, or rather, Paul Kagame has always said that the genocide that happened in Rwanda was because Paul Kagame continues to say that the French government and the West were responsible for that. They were funding these protests. They were funding this genocide. Kagame goes ahead and says the West are hypocrites for creating standards for the black people, while they themselves cannot live up to those standards. They leave the burden up to us. However, much has been said. We cannot say that two wrongs make a right, and that's why we have the law. We should let the law have its course. Two wrongs don't make a right. Because you stab me, I stab you back. Because you poke my eye, I poke your eye. No, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Imagine a world of blind people. Who does the work? Who feeds the family? Who runs the country? Who does the laundry? Who? We have no one, because we can't see. We are all blind. And that's why I think that wrong should be met with justice. That's why I'm thinking that in as much as Paul Kagame can be giving counter arguments that this is why I did this, we should let the law have its course, because nobody is above the law. He might not be arrested while in power. Perhaps that's why he wants to stay in power. But remember one thing, once he leaves power, he can be arrested. Yep. So listening to what the man has said, it's good news, but also it's not news, because we've always had this. We had Charles Taylor, who assassinated many of his people in Liberia. We had Idi Amin. Idi Amin was responsible not only for terminating some Indians and chasing them away, but he was also responsible for terminating many Africans in his country who are responsible for opposing him. We also had one here in Kenya. His name was Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. He was very subtle in his methods. He killed so many opposition leaders, so many. Some were even found by herdsboy while they were hunting. He would terminate his opposition leaders and then throw them some kilometers away into the forest. And then there at the forest, some herdsboy would meet these people. This is something that African leaders are used to. They think while they're in power, they are invincible. No. I think people have allowed them to do that. And with countries such as Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, we can clearly see that there's a new model coming. There's a model of change, a model of justice, and a model of anti-corruption. We are looking forward towards those days when African leaders, they do wrong, they meet the consequences. They act like they are God, they pay the price. And I am glad that this gentleman has been able to share his thoughts and has been able to reveal some very, very dark secrets that we would have never known if it were not for him. Yeah. This is EFK Original Documentaries. If you like what I do, kindly support me on Patreon. I shall surely appreciate. You can give your super thanks. Yeah, those who give super thanks, thank you so much, so much, so much. I appreciate so much. I know you've really touched. It has really touched your heart, and yeah, I so much appreciate. Subscribe. We shall so much appreciate for your support. Yeah. See you in the next one.